What is going on, everybody? Tyler Brandt back here with another video. Week 4 is here. We're already a quarter of the way through the NFL season. It is the most wonderful time of the year, but it goes so gosh darn fast. And already being a quarter of the way through the season by the time today is over, it sucks, but it's happy, football season's here, but it sucks because a quarter of the season is already over. So without any further ado, let's talk a little bit about today's game. The 2-1 New England Patriots, fresh off a win versus the Oakland Raiders last week, the Vegas Raiders last week, excuse me. They travel to Kansas City to play the reigning, defending Super Bowl champion, the 3-0 Kansas City Chiefs, in what is the biggest game on the Patriots schedule to this point, and probably the biggest game on the entire schedule. So today's game is at 4:25 on CBS. It should be a great, hopefully competitive game. And in this video, we're going to break down what the Patriots have to do to win this game and at least keep it competitive. So without any further ado, let's get into it. The Kansas City Chiefs hosting our guys, the good guys, the New England Patriots. Okay, so a few notes headed into this game, again, between the Chiefs and the Patriots. First things first, one good thing going for the New England Patriots. The Chiefs are coming into this game off a short week. If you don't remember, if you missed the game, the Chiefs played the Baltimore Ravens. They beat Baltimore on Monday Night Football last week. So, again, a short week for the Kansas City Chiefs. And beyond that, before we go into this game, and we're going to talk about, the offense and the defense for the New England Patriots, what they have to do. The one thing that I really want to get out, no matter what this video is, the fact that the New England Patriots got off to a slow start last week against the Raiders, that can't happen this week. Plain and simple, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There's no good way to look at it. If the Patriots get off to a slow start this week against the Kansas City Chiefs, if there's an early turnover, if they're not, keeping balls and keeping the drive alive, it is going to be a very, very quick game, and it is going to be probably not a very competitive game. So no sloppy play for the Patriots, no early timeouts to protect from 12 men on the field, stuff like that. That can't happen this week again against the Kansas City Chiefs if they want to even have a shot at winning this game. So now that those are out of the way, let's break down some stuff for the Patriots offense and the defense this week against the Chiefs. Let's start this week with the Patriots offense. First and foremost, again, the best way to beat this Kansas City Chiefs team is, A, you can't make any mistakes, and you have to play perfect football. We just talked about that, and that's over everything else. You can't make those mistakes. It has to be a perfect game, and you need a couple of bounces. But the best way to keep Pat Mahomes and this unbelievable offense led by Mahomes and Andy Reid, the best way to keep them off the scoreboard is to, quite frankly, keep them off the field. That's just how the Patriots are going to have to keep this game close. There's going to be a lot of long drives that end in points every single time, whether it's field goals, Nick Folk, do your damn job, or if it's touchdowns, hopefully it's always touchdowns. But even when you look at the 2018 title game, the Patriots controlled the ball for, I believe, north of like 45 minutes. So again, it's keeping Pat Mahomes off the field and limiting what he can do offensively. Now, last week, as I was watching the Kansas City Chiefs game, I tweeted that the Patriots have their hands full, and it is going to be a very tall task to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. I still believe that. I'm not necessarily sure I think they can win, but I do think there is one glaring strength that New England has coming into this game, at least on paper, that gives them a chance to win this game. Maybe not a big chance, but a chance to win this game. And going into this game, that is that the Kansas City Chiefs, they're a middle-of-the-pack defensive team right now. What really weighs them down is they are god-awful in terms of DVOA against the run. They are 30th of 32. They've had a very tough time stopping the run. Baltimore ran for 158 yards last week on 21 carries against them. They've had major, major issues early on against the run, and it just so happens that the New England Patriots, through the first 3 weeks of the season, are the best team on the ground in the NFL. They are leading in yards per carry. They have the most yards on the ground and the most yards per game on the ground so far this season. So the Patriots have a very, very big strength headed into this game, and especially a strength in terms of keeping Pat Mahomes off the field. So this offense, I know I say Cam has to throw the ball, 20, 30, 40 times, but keep the ball on the ground, keep running for first downs, and just keep Pat Mahomes on the sideline. Beyond the Chiefs not being able to stop the run, their defense is very suspect overall. Again, they are middle of the pack. L'Jarius Sneed, the cornerback, the rookie, I believe he's a 4th-round pick. He's had a very, very good start to the season. He's right now been their best cornerback. I believe he's going to be on Julian Edelman, and they're probably going to do some sort of a bracket coverage on Julian Edelman to take him out of the game, like they did last time Spagnuolo, the defensive coordinator, played the New England Patriots. They took Jules and James White out of the game and made Brady complete passes to, at the time, Mohamed Sanu and Nikhil Harry, and last year, Ryan Izzo. So going into this game, I believe that the Chiefs are probably going to do somewhat of the same thing. And in that case, that means it's going to be Nikhil Harry, Damir, Byrd, Gunnar Olszewski, who is off IR. We might see a little bit of him this week. But it's going to be largely Nikhil Harry and Damir Byrd responsible for beating their men. While a guy like L'Jarius Sneed will be on Jules, the two guys that I believe the Patriots have plus matchups over are Charvarius Ward and Rashad Fenton. Those are the two guys that will probably be lined up in some capacity on Nikhil Harry and Damir Byrd. The Patriots both have plus matchups, so when they have to move the ball through the air, Nikhil and Damir both have to win those matchups in this game. The weakest part to me, the absolute weakest part of this Kansas City defense is their linebacking group. I don't think they have one very good linebacker. They're largely an average group, and James White did return to practice this week. So I would like to see if James White is in the game plan at all, enough to really sort of wreak havoc in the middle of the field. He's going to have some plus matchups on linebackers that just can't cover him. So I would be very intrigued and very interested to see James White come back and really be a part of the game plan this week against the Kansas City Chiefs. Last but not least, when we are talking about this Patriots offense and this Chiefs defense, the best part of this defense, the best player on this defense is Chris Jones. He is a game wrecker. Frank Clark is down there on the defensive line too, but he's had a slow start to the season. I'm particularly now going to key in on Chris Jones. So Steve Spagnuolo gives him opportunities to get one-on-one with interior offensive linemen, and he wins a lot of those one-on-ones with interior offensive linemen. I mean, the guy is an absolute game wrecker. He got paid for a reason. So no David Andrews could hurt New England, although Joe Thuney did a respectable job last week against the Vegas Raiders. But I think the real question mark here is going to be Michael Onwenu, who's the guard, was the guard last week, probably going to be the left guard while Thuney slides over. So while I believe Shaq Mason and Joe Thuney will hold up, although Chris Jones will wreck some plays for the Chiefs, I think that Onwenu is a little bit of a dicey kind of start here. I mean, they have no choice, but Thuney's going to have to help him a lot on the interior part of that line. And I think that's going to be one of the big keys, because I think he can potentially wreck any sort of game plan that New England has going into this. So before we move on to the defensive side of the ball, remember the Patriots have to run the ball. They'll be able to really do whatever they want on the ground as long as they contain Chris Jones. We saw Lamar Jackson as a runner last week really dice up and take apart this Kansas City defense. Cam Newton, maybe not as athletically gifted on his feet as Lamar Jackson. He can do the same sort of things. The read option plays, the RPO plays. They're going to be able to run the ball inside and outside. They're going to be able to move the ball on the ground. So the idea here is to be able to do that and to be able to keep Pat Mahomes on the sideline. That is the biggest mismatch, and in order to do that, they have to run the ball and exploit that huge, huge mismatch, at least the one that's been on paper through the first 3 weeks of the NFL season. To the defensive side of the ball we go now, and the good thing about this defense, while they've looked a little dicey at some points this season, Bill Belichick, he knows how to play Pat Mahomes as good as anyone can play Pat Mahomes. Of course, he beats them in the AFC title game in 2018, and last season in the 2019 game, he really pitched a great performance, 23 points given up to that Chiefs offense, and the Patriots offense just could never get ahead of themselves and get in front of the Chiefs. So Bill Belichick, I think, A, he knows how to slow down the Chiefs, and B, he also understands that you can't stop Pat Mahomes for 4 quarters. It's just impossible. The things that offense can do, they're going to score eventually. It's taking advantage of the stops, and it's putting up points and getting some momentum for your offense when possible. So I'm confident in this defense. I know that the Chiefs are going to put up points, but I think if you can limit what they can do, all of a sudden you're in the game with the Chiefs, and then it's, play by play, whoever makes the plays. So Bill Belichick knows that, and I think he's got a good history against Mahomes. So I think for that reason, before we break anything else down, it will be competitive. The way that the Patriots defense, to me, that I've seen has operated, it's been a ton of hybrid linebackers, safety guys, and we haven't really seen a ton of Juwan Bentley and Brandon Copeland. I really hope Juwan Bentley would take the next step this season and make himself a huge part of this defense. He still has yet to take that step early on in the season. He's been a liability, especially in the run game, and I think that's probably going to stay the same here. Edwards-Hilaire's the best running back that Pat Mahomes has had and that offense. So I automatically think that Bentley and Copeland probably won't be big parts of the game this week because of what Edwards-Hilaire can do as both a pass catcher and a runner. Before we get to the secondary, let's talk a little bit about the pass rush, the inconsistent pass rush so far for the New England Patriots. So we've seen Dietrich Wise pop a little bit. Lawrence Guy's had himself a good season. Not that those are your premier pass rushers. The guy that this week, and he's been great, so I don't think it's all or nothing on this week, but if Chase Winovich could have a big week as a pass rusher, all of a sudden, the Patriots have a pretty good shot if they can get some hands on Pat Mahomes consistently, and it starts with him. So if he can get in there, make a few nice plays as a pass rusher, that is just going to be a huge plus for New England, because Pat Mahomes and that offense, they do things, when there's guys in his face that can do amazing things. So if he's going to stand back there all day, then he's just going to dot you up. It doesn't matter who you are. So if Winovich could have himself a nice game, all of a sudden the Patriots defense really is going to have to start to have some momentum. Now, let's get into the Patriots secondary. I think it'll be, at least, we'll start with the tight end. Darren Waller, they did a great job on him last week against the Vegas Raiders. This week, it's a similar, while Kelsey's, significantly better at this point than Waller, it's the same thing. Another superstar, ultra receiving tight end, wide receiver, basically. And the Patriots managed to do pretty well against big guys like that. They've, historically done pretty well against Kelsey. So I continue to believe that will be fine. I think Juwan Williams, Terrence Brooks, and in some big spots, Gilmore will probably be on Kelsey. For the rest of the game, Gilmore, I would assume, is going to be on Sammy Watkins again and just take him out of the game. In a perfect world, he takes him out of the game. And then, when Tyreek, and whether it's Mecole Hardman, whoever the wide receiver is with Tyreek, they'll probably end up being the group or the better part of the better part numbers-wise of the Patriots secondary will be on the other side of the formation. So that's going to be largely on Devin McCourty, making sure guys switch are in the right spot, especially with the way that the Chiefs move pre-snap. So it's going to be largely on McCourty, and J.C. Jackson, John Jones, on that side of the field will be responsible for Tyreek Hill and company and whoever they line up on his side of the formation. You're going to see a ton of man coverage this week, straight up looking at the way that the Kansas City receivers get downfield. Baltimore got burnt a few times trying to switch in the zone and pass guys off to other guys, and I just think Bill Belichick knows that you can't sit in zones. The large part of Andy Reid's play calling, especially with this roster, is designed for guys to beat zone coverage and to break zone coverage. You have to pass these guys off at a rapid level to beat them. So I think it's going to be a lot of man coverage. I think the defense this week will go as Stephon Gilmore goes. I think he is the key this week on defense. Flat out, he hasn't been very good in 2020, at least not to the point of where he was in 2019. Now, I know that you probably can't repeat 2019. That was one of the greatest seasons from a defensive back in NFL history. People will probably think that's a little overstated. I don't think so at all. It was one of the greatest seasons we've ever seen. It's hard to repeat that. But he needs to take Watkins out of this game for them to, I think, even have a shot in the passing game. So I think we need a lot from Gilmore this week. I think that's going to be a key to keeping the game close. And then beyond that, it's, keeping guys in brackets, keeping that man coverage tight, and getting some pressure on Mahomes so that way he doesn't have these wide open windows to throw. And especially down the field, that's when they really kill you, is these lightning quick receivers get behind you, and Pat Mahomes just puts it on them time after time. That's when you really get in trouble versus Chiefs offense. Now, furthermore, if you continue to break it down, there's the theory that, the Patriots could drop 2 or 3 safeties deep and just force Pat Mahomes to hand the ball off to Edwards-Helaire and kind of have him chew up the clock and limit the big plays. There's that school of thought. But I think the Patriots defense and that secondary as a whole is good enough to slow down Mahomes for at least some points of the game, especially if the Patriots limit possessions. But again, that starts with Gilmore. He's got to take Watkins out of the game, and he's got to reassert the idea of how good he is. He's been good. He's made some nice plays, but he's also been thrown at and been beaten a few times. We saw DK Metcalf beat him, and I don't think that the Chiefs didn't see that. Everybody saw that, and they can do a lot of the same things with their receivers that DK Metcalf and that the Seattle Seahawks secondary did with their guys, and that I think could be a glaring issue. But if you get a little pressure on Mahomes and you make him move around in the pocket a little bit, then you limit those huge plays. But again, it starts with Gilmore. He's got to be A1 this week against the Chiefs. So, for my matchups to watch this week, first is Nikhil, Harry, and Damir, Byrd versus Ward and Fenton for the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, we know the Patriots are going to dominate on the ground if they do this the right way, but there are going to be obviously opportunities where they have to throw the ball, and you need those two to win plus matchups if Spags is going to take Julian Edelman out of the game. So you really need a big game from Nikhil, Harry, and Damir Byrd through the air for the Patriots to have a shot this week. For my second matchup to watch this week against the Chiefs, it is going to be, as I said a little while ago, Stephon Gilmore versus what I believe to be Sammy Watkins. He did a great job against Sammy Watkins in 2019. He locked him up as he locked everybody up in 2019, and he was a big reason why the Patriots held the Chiefs to 23 points. With that being said, he's got to do that again. Plain and simple, he's got to do it again for the Patriots to have a shot. He's got to get back to somewhat of the level he was at the end of 2019, at least this week against this team. That's it. There's nothing else to it. And finally, nothing special here. The third matchup is, of course, the Patriots run game versus the Chiefs' 30th ranked rush defense. And it is going to be the key to the game. I mean, Pat Mahomes is going to score points eventually. The best way to stop him is to keep him off the field. And the best way to do that is to exploit the biggest mismatch that is on the field between these two teams. And that is the number 1 rush offense versus the number 30 rush defense. That is the only reason why the Patriots have a chance in this game to me. And if they can run the ball and keep Mahomes off the field, this will be a competitive game. Before I give you my final prediction for the game, I will say this wrapped up in a bow. This is what I think it's going to take for New England to win. This is how they win in my eyes. But here's the thing, and I've said this before if you've been a part of this channel for a long time. For a while, it was the Patriots were the team that you had to play perfect and you needed a couple bounces just to beat that team. No matter when it was, no matter where it was. Now it's the Kansas City Chiefs to me. You need to play a perfect game, and you need a few calls and a few lucky bounces to go your way. So with that being said, the only way for them to win this game is to keep Pat Mahomes off the field to me. And I still think that in a very limited amount of time on the field, Pat Mahomes can burn you. We've seen him do it to New England before. We've seen him do it to Baltimore last week. So I really think that it's going to have to be a perfect game, and the Patriots are going to have to run the ball, and if they can do that, it'll at least be competitive, and they'll be putting a respectable effort on the field, and it will be at least a good effort against the best team in the NFL right now. With all of that being said, my final score prediction for this week, the 2-1 New England Patriots versus the undefeated 3-0 Kansas City Chiefs. I think the Kansas City Chiefs will come out on top by a final score of 31-24. I think the Patriots do run the ball. They do, put the ball in the end zone a few times. And I think they put up a very respectable effort against this team. But again, I think, maybe a turnover or two for New England. And a couple of really, really nice throws by Pat Mahomes. And it's just, that's what's going to be the difference in this game. As it used to be for New England when, Brady was there. And when it was like that, now it's Mahomes that is just, we did everything we could. But they have a superstar all-time great on one team and the other team doesn't. So I think that is, again, the difference, like it was against the Seahawks, where one side had a Russell Wilson and we saw that, and the other side didn't. One side has a Patrick Mahomes and an Andy Reid offensively. You know, Bill Belichick is still Bill Belichick, but one side has a Pat Mahomes and one side doesn't, and I think that's going to be the difference. So I'm going to take the Kansas City Chiefs again in this one, 31-24. What does Vegas think of this? Well, the line in this game, as far as I can see, is Kansas City, a 6.5-point favorite. On the money line, they are minus 286, and the over-under is set for 53. Now, I think if we hit the under, the Patriots will have a pretty good chance, a very good chance to win this game. If they hit the over, I think that will be because the Chiefs rout in this game. That's just my personal thinking. But beyond that, I think the Kansas City Chiefs just cover. I am going to take them with the points. I think 6.5 is good. If the Patriots lose by less than 6 and I miss it, I'll still be ecstatic. It would be the same way I would be happy with a loss to the Seattle Seahawks. But I think Kansas City minus 6.5. I like that line. I think they're the best team in football, and they're going to flex their muscles again. You know, hopefully New England hangs in. And hey, if New England wins, that's awesome. I'm going to be overjoyed. But I got to look at it straight up, and I got to look at it like the Chiefs are the best team in football. And it's because they are the best team in football right now. So what are your predictions for this game? Leave them in the comments down below. You think the Patriots win? Tell me your final score. Tell me some stat lines. Who do you think is going to have a big day? Leave it all down in the comments below. If you want, you can also get at me on Twitter and Instagram. On Twitter, I am at the Tyler Brand. On Instagram, I am at Talking Pats. We could chop it up all game day long, talk about whatever we want to talk about. Really, I'll be on Twitter live tweeting the game, as always, all day long, and we could chop it up there. Again, like we can in the comments, so leave a comment. And also, we just hit 100 subscribers last week. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for everyone that has helped me get to 100 subs. I appreciate it so, so much. This is just the beginning for this family. We're growing every single day. We're getting stronger and we're getting bigger every single day, especially as this season goes on. So, share with the football fan, share with the Patriots fan. Let's grow this thing. Thanks for 100 subs. Leave comments down below. Let me know what you think is going to happen today on game day. I'm Tyler Brandt. Can't wait to watch this game, 4:25 on CBS. I'll catch you on the post-game show. Enjoy the game, everybody.